The Urantia book, Section 2, The Local Universe, Paper 45, The Local System Administration. The administrative center of Satania consists of a cluster of architectural spheres, 57 in number. Jerusem itself, the 7 major satellites, and the 49 subsatellites. Jerusem, the system capital, is almost 100 times the size of Urantia, although its gravity is trifle less. Jerusalem's major satellites are the 7 transition worlds, each of which is about 10 times as large as Urantia, while the 7 sub-satellites of these transition spheres are just about the size of Urantia. The 7 mentioned worlds are the 7 sub-satellites of transition world number 1. So the 7 mentioned worlds are the 7 sub-satellites of transition world number 1. This entire system of 57 architectural worlds is independently lighted, heated, watered, and energized by the coordination of the Satania Power Center and the master physical controllers in accordance with the established technique of the physical organization and arrangement of these specially created spheres. They are also physically cared for and otherwise maintained by the native spornagia. One, transitional culture worlds. The 7 major worlds swinging around Jerusem are generally known as the transitional culture spheres. Their rulers are designated from time to time by the Jerusem Supreme Executive Council. These spheres are numbered and named as follows. Number 1, the Finaliter world. This is the headquarters of the Finaliter Corps of the local system, and it's surrounded by the receiving worlds, the 7 mentioned worlds, dedicated so fully to the scheme of mortal ascension. The Finaliter world is accessible to the inhabitants of all 7 mentioned worlds. Transport Seraphim carry ascending personalities back and forth on these pilgrimages, which are designed to cultivate their faith in the ultimate destiny of the transition mortals. So in each world our faith will grow more and more intense, deeper, and shall be more deeply rooted in our Morantia soul. So it's not only here in this world, Urantia, the earthly realm. We start with the first stepping stones in having faith in God the Father. but this faith will grow in each and every world we go through. Although the finalizers and their structures are not ordinarily perceptible to Morontia vision, you will be more than thrilled from time to time when the energy transformers and the Morontia power supervisors enable you momentarily to glimpse these high spirit personalities who have actually completed the Paradise Ascension and who have returned to the very worlds where you are beginning this long journey, as the pledge of assurance that you may and can complete the stupendous undertaking. All mentioned world sojourners go to the finalizer sphere at least once a year for these assemblies of finaliter visualization. And then we have number 2, the Morontia world. This planet is the headquarters of the supervisors of Morontia life and is surrounded by the 7 spheres whereon the Morontia chiefs train their associates and helpers, both Morontia beings and ascending mortals. In passing through the 7 mentioned worlds, you will also progress through these cultural and social spheres of increasing Morontia contact. When you advance from the first to the second mentioned world, you will become eligible for a visitor's permit to transitional headquarters number 2, the Morontia world, and so on. And when present on any one of these 6 cultural spheres, you may, on invitation, become a visitor and observer of any of the 7 surrounding worlds of associated group activities. Number 3, the angelic world. This is the headquarters of all the seraphic hosts engaged in system activities and is surrounded by the 7 worlds of angelic training and instruction. These are the seraphic social spheres. Then we go to number 4, the super angel world. This sphere is the Satania, home of the brilliant evening stars and a vast concourse of coordinate and near coordinate beings. The 7 satellites of this world are assigned to the 7 major groups of these unnamed celestial beings. And then number 5. Number 5, the world of the suns. This planet is the headquarters of the divine sons of all orders, including the creature trinitized suns. The surrounding 7 worlds are devoted to certain individual groupings of these divinely related sons. And then we have number 6, the world of the spirit. This sphere serves as the system rendezvous of the high personalities of the infinite spirit. Its 7 surrounding satellites are assigned to individual groups of these orders. But on transition world number 6, there is no representation of the spirit neither is such a presence to be observed on the system capitals. The divine minister of Selfington is everywhere in Nebadon. And the divine minister of Selfington is also known as the universe mother spirit, and each and every local universe has a daughter of this universe mother spirit, and this daughter is called the local universe mother spirit. Then we have number 7, the world of the Father. This is the silent sphere of the system. No group of beings is domiciled on it. The great temple of light occupies a central place, but no one can be discerned therein. All beings of all the system worlds are welcomed as worshippers. The 7 satellites surrounding the Father's world are variously utilized in the different systems. In Satania, they are now used as the detention spheres for the interned groups of the Lucifer rebellion. The constellation capital Urantia has no analogous prison worlds. The few seraphim and cherubim who went over to the rebels in the Satania rebellion have been long since confined on these isolation worlds of Jerusem. So Urantia is the constellation capital. And that is why the gardens in this case were named Eden, because we have had 2 Edens. As a sojourner on the 7th mentioned world, you have access to the 7th transition world, the sphere of the Universal Father, and are also permitted to visit the Satania prison worlds surrounding this planet, whereon are now confined Lucifer and the majority of those personalities who followed him in rebellion against Michael. And this sad spectacle has been observable during these recent ages and will continue to serve as a solemn warning to all Nebadon until the Ancients of Days shall educate the sin of Lucifer and his fallen associates, who rejected the salvation proffered by Michael, their universe father. Then 2, the system sovereign, the chief executive of a local system of inhabited worlds, is a primary Lanonandek son, the system sovereign. In our local universe, these sovereigns are entrusted with large executive responsibilities, unusual personal prerogatives. Not all universes, even in Orphanton, are so organized as to permit the system sovereigns to exercise such unusually wide powers of personal discretion in the direction of system affairs. But in all the history of Nebadon, these untrammeled executives have exhibited disloyalty only 3 times. The Lucifer rebellion in the system of Satania was the last and the most widespread of all. In Satania, even after this disastrous upheaval, absolutely no changes have been made in the technique of system administration. The present system sovereign possesses all the power and exercises all the authority that were invested in his unworthy predecessor, except for certain matters. Now under the supervision of the constellation fathers, which the ancients of days have not yet fully restored to Lanavorsh, the successor of Lucifer. The present head of Satania is a gracious and brilliant ruler, and he is a rebellion-tested sovereign, and we are still speaking about Lanavorsh. When serving as an assistant system sovereign, Lanavorsh was faithful to Michael in an earlier upheaval in the universe of Nebadon. This mighty and brilliant Lord of Satania is a tried and tested administrator. At the time of the second system rebellion in Nebadon, when the system sovereign stumbled and fell into darkness, Lanavorsh, the first assistant to the erring chief, seized the reins of government and conducted the affairs of the system. That comparatively few personalities were lost either on the headquarters worlds or on the inhabited planets of that unfortunate system. Lanavorsh bears the distinction of being the only primary Lanonandek son in all Nebadon, who thus functioned loyally in the service of Michael and in the very presence of the default of his brother of superior authority and antecedent rank. Lanavorsh will probably not be removed from Jerusem until all the results of the former folly have been overcome and the products of rebellion removed from Satania. While all the affairs of the isolated worlds of Satania have not been returned to his jurisdiction, Lanavorsh discloses great interest in their welfare, and he is a frequent visitor on Urantia, or Earth. As in other and normal systems, the sovereign presides over the system council of world rulers. The planetary princes and the resident governors general of the isolated worlds. This planetary council assembles from time to time on the headquarters of the system when the sons of God come together. Once a week, every 10 days on Jerusem, the sovereign holds a conclave with some one group of the various orders of personalities domiciled on the headquarters worlds. These are the charmingly informal hours of Jerusem, and they are never to be forgotten occasions. On Jerusem there exists the utmost fraternity between all the various orders of beings and between each of these groups and the system sovereign. These unique assemblages occur on the sea of glass, the great gathering field of the system capital. So the sea of glass, which is mentioned in the book of Revelation, is actually referring to this system capital. They are purely social and spiritual occasions, nothing pertaining to the planetary administration or even to ascendant plan is ever discussed. Ascending mortals come together at these times merely to enjoy themselves and to meet their fellow Jerusemites. Those groups which are not being entertained by the sovereign at these weekly relaxations meet at their own headquarters. And then 3, the system government. The chief executive of a local system, the system sovereign, is always supported by 2 or 3 Lanonandek sons, who function as first and second assistants. But at the present time, the system of Satania is administered by a staff of 7 Lanonandeks. The first one is the system sovereign Lana Forge, number 2709 of the primary order and successor to the apostate Lucifer. So here comes the whole apostasy from. This is all coming from Lucifer. And they speak about apostate Bibles and so on. So yeah, that should actually make you think questions. 2. The first assistant sovereign, Mansurotia, who has the number 70,841 of the tertiary Lanonandek. And then we have as third the second assistant sovereign, Sadip, number 271,402 of the tertiary order. Sadip also came to Satania with Lanaforge. And then we have number 4, the custodian of the system, Holdant, number 19 of the tertiary corps, the holder and controller of all interned spirits above the order of mortal existence. Holdant likewise came to Satania with Lanaforge. And then we have number 5, the system recorder, Vilton, secretary of the Lanonandek ministry of Satania, and has the number 374 of the third order. Vilton was a member of the original Lanaforge group. And then number 6, the bestowal director, Fortant, number 390,847 of the reserves of the secondary Lanonandeks. and temporary director of all universe activities, transplanted to Jerusem since Michael's bestowal on Urantia. For Tante has been attached to the staff of Lanaforge for 1900 years of Urantia time. And then number 7, the High Counselor, Hanavar, who carries the number 67 of the primary Lanonandek sons, and a member of the High Corps of Universe Counselors and coordinators. He functions as acting chairman of the Executive Council of Satania. Hanavar is the 12th of this order, so to serve on Jerusem since the Lucifer Rebellion. The executive group of 7 Lanonandeks constitutes the expanded emergency administration made necessary by the exigencies of the Lucifer Rebellion. There are only minor courts on Jerusem since the system is the unit of administration, not adjudication. But the Lanonandek administration is supported by the Jerusem Executive Council, the supreme advisory body of Satania. This council consists of 12 members. 1. Hanavar, the Lanonandek chairman. 2. Lanaforge, the system sovereign. 3. Mansurotia, the first assistant sovereign. 4. The chief of Satania, Melchizedek. 5. The acting director of Satania Life Carriers. 6. The chief of the Satania Finaliters. 7. The original Adam of Satania, the supervising head of the material sons. Then 8. The director of the Satania Seraphic hosts. And then 9. The chief of the Satania physical controllers. And number 10. The director of the system Urantia power supervisors. Number 11. The acting director of system midway creatures. And then as last, number 12, the acting head of the corps of ascending mortals. This council periodically chooses 3 members to represent the local system on the Supreme Council at Universe headquarters, but this representation is suspended by the rebellion. Satania now has an observer at the headquarters of the local universe. But since the bestowal of Michael, the system has resumed the election of 10 members to the Edensia legislature. Then we go to 4. Point 4. The 4 and 20 counselors. At the center of the 7 angelic residential circles on Jerusem is located the headquarters of the Urantia Advisory Council. The 4 and 20 counselors, John the Revelator called them the 4 and 20 elders. So, knowing this, then you can say that some bits and pieces of the book of Revelation actually reverse to the, you can say, parts that John the Revelator was shown about the system, about the local system administration. So he was actually having contact with the Urantia Advisory Council, but he didn't know because John the Revelator was not really able to clarify his vision, and he was not able to formulate clearly what he had seen. So this is interesting because there, without us knowing this for many hundreds of years, because the Bible exists since 1400, then they started to create this book. So since that time, without us consciously knowing it, actually John the Revelator has showed us something of the Urantia Advisory Council. So this is interesting because with this, the 24 elders, as John the Revelator called them, and was able to recognize them as such, we get here a first point to the later coming fifth epical revelation, the Urantia book. And round about the throne were 24 seats, and upon the seats I saw 24 elders sitting, clothed in white raiment. The throne in the center of this group is the judgment seat of the presiding archangel. The throne of the resurrection roll call of mercy and justice for all Satania. So now we get a deeper understanding of this part that is mentioned in the book of Revelation. This judgment seat has always been on Jerusem. So actually you can say that he was guided to Jerusem, but he didn't know, because John the Revelator was not able to see this and to understand his vision correctly. So he was already guided to Jerusem, where he was guided to this Urantia Advisory Council. So this is interesting. But the 24 surrounding seats were placed in position no more than 1900 years ago, soon after Christ Michael was elevated to the full sovereignty of Nebadon. These 24 counselors are his personal agents on Jerusem, and they have authority to represent the Master Son in all matters concerning the roll calls of Satania and in many other phases of the scheme of mortal ascension on the isolated worlds of the system. And we are in an isolated world, which means Urantia is in a spiritual quarantine, and this makes us an isolated world. They are the designated agents for executing the special requests of Gabriel and the unusual mandates of Michael. These 24 counselors have been recruited from the 8 Urantia races. And we go into that later on. In section 3, we will find all information about the 8 races of Urantia. And you can say that the entire rainbow coloration is represented in the human race. That's why it's called human. Actually, it should be an E in it. So some person took the E out, but it should be human race. And the last of this group were assembled at the time of the resurrection roll call of Michael 1900 years ago. This Urantia Advisory Council is made up of the following members. 1. Onagar, the mastermind of the pre-planetary Prince Age, who directed his fellows in the worship of the Great Breath Giver. 2. Mansant, the great teacher of the post-planetary Prince Age on Urantia, who pointed his fellows to the veneration of the Great Light. 3. Ona Mona Lonton, a far distant leader of the Red Men and the one who directed his race from worship of many gods to the veneration of the Great Spirit. And there are some left from the Red Men, the Red Race, and they are unto the day of this day still calling God the Great Spirit. And these are what is called the indigenous Indian people. 4. Orlandov, a prince of the Blue Men and their leader in the recognition of the divinity of the Supreme Chief. Then we have number 5. Porshunta, the oracle of the extinct Orange race and the leader of this people in the worship of the Great Teacher. And if it says extinct Orange race, it doesn't mean that they are completely extinct, because our DNA is still having some of their, you can say, racial features in it. So the racial features of the Orange race are, you can say, archived in our DNA. Then we have Singleton, the first of the yellow men to teach and lead his people in the worship of one truth instead of many. Thousands of years ago, the yellow men knew of the one God. Then we have number 7, Fantat, the deliverer of the green man from darkness and their leader in the worship of the one source of life. Then 8, Orphonon, the enlightened of the indigo races, and do not get confused with the New Age terminology indigo races. So Orphonon, the enlightener of the indigo races, and their leader in the one-time service of the God of gods. So, because the New Age has a different terminology about the indigo races and the indigo people. And this terminology has nothing to do with what is being stated here in the Urantia book. Then we have on number 9, Adam, the discredited but rehabilitated planetary father of Urantia, a material son of God who was relegated to the likeness of mortal flesh, but who survived and was subsequently elevated to this position by decree of Michael. And then we have Eve, because Eve is also part of this council. Eve, the mother of the violet race of Urantia, who suffered the penalty of default with her mate and was also rehabilitated with him and assigned to serve with this group of mortal survivors. Then we have a number 11, Enoch, the first of the mortals of Urantia to fuse with the thought adjuster during the mortal life in the flesh. So, and there are actually several Enochs, but we can say that the Enoch that is in this council is the one and only Enoch, probably. Because you have the book of Enoch, and not many know exactly if it is from this Enoch or another Enoch, but that is an ongoing debate. But anyways, the person Enoch, who was a mortal being, who was the first of the mortals of Urantia to fuse with the thought adjuster. So that whole story that he all of a sudden was gone with God, and you know, with the what was it, where people saw the some angels, but also the a whole scene I cannot remember yet completely, but that piece where it is described what happened to Enoch when he went with the Father, that piece relates, that information relates that someone was recording the process of the fusion of Enoch's morontial soul with the thought adjuster. Then we have on number 12, Moses, the emancipator of a remnant of the submerged violet race and the instigator of the revival of the worship of the universal Father under the name of the God of Israel. But now we just have to say the universal Father, the God of Israel, is not needed anymore. That was done because the Israelite people had many difficulties with understanding the concept, the idea of universal Father. They had difficulties with understanding that there was a universe and that there is a universal Father, that there is a Father that leads the entire universe. They couldn't understand that, so Moses thought about how he could bring the universal Father to his fellow brethren, and for this he went into conversation with Machiventa Melchizedek, and then with you can say with the I'm getting lost here track. So Moses went to Machiventa Melchizedek and asked him how he could reveal the universal Father to his brethren in a way that his brethren could understand. And then when he was talking this out with this Melchizedek, Moses came to the idea to bring it as the God of Israel. But now we can let go of this, and now we can call the Father the universal Father. Yeah? Then we have Elijah in this council, also a translated soul of brilliant spiritual achievement during the post-material Sun Age. Then we have number 14, Machiventa Melchizedek, the only son of this order to bestow himself upon the Urantia races. While still numbered as a Melchizedek, he has become forever a minister of the Most Highs. And the Most Highs is not what we think it is. It is a group of Vorondadek sons. So if you say the Most High, you are actually not referring to God the Father, but to a group of Vorondadek sons, eternally assuming the assignment of service as a mortal ascender, having sojourned on Urantia in the likeness of mortal flesh at Salem in the days of Abraham. This Melchizedek has latterly been proclaimed vicegerent planetary prince of Urantia, with headquarters on Jerusem and authority to act in behalf of Michael, who is actually the planetary prince of the world whereon he experienced his terminal bestowal in human form. Notwithstanding this, Urantia is still supervised by successive resident governors general, members of the 4 and 20 councillors. Then we have on the 15th place John the Baptist, the forerunner of Michael's mission on Urantia, and in the flesh distant cousin of the Son of Man. And then on number 16, the 1, 2, and 3, the first leader of the loyal midway creatures in the service of Gabriel at the time of Caligastia betrayal, elevated to this position by Michael soon after his entrance upon unconditioned sovereignty. The selected personalities are exempt from the ascension regime for the time being on Gabriel's request, and we have no idea how long they may serve in this capacity. Seats number 17, 18, 19, and 20 are not permanently occupied. They are temporarily filled by unanimous consent of the 16 permanent members, being kept open for later assignment to ascending mortals from the present post-bestowal Sun Age on Urantia. Numbers or seats 21, 23, and 24 are likewise temporarily filled, with being held in reserve for the great teachers of other and subsequent ages, which undoubtedly will follow the present age, eras of the magisterial sons and teacher sons, and the ages of light and life. So here it is being stated that we will receive a magisterial son, and when he has done his job here, then the teacher sons are coming. And Urantia is on spiritual level not yet developed enough to receive the teacher sons, so we get first the magisterial son, and they can be accompanied by 12 Melchizedek sons. And then eventually, that is the last stage of this world and all worlds, that is the age of light and life, are to be anticipated on Urantia regardless of unexpected visitations of divine sons which may or may not occur. Then we go to point 5, the material sons. The great divisions of celestial life have their headquarters and immense preserves on Jerusem, including the various orders of divine sons, high spirits, super angels, angels, and midway creatures. The central abode of this wonderful sector is the chief temple of the material sons. The domain of the atoms is the center of attraction to all new arrivals on Jerusem. It is an enormous area consisting of 1,000 centers, although each family of material sons and daughters lives on an estate of its own up to the time of the departure of its members for service on the evolutionary worlds of space and time, or until their embarkation upon the paradise ascension career. These material sons are the highest type of sex-reproducing beings to be found on the training spheres of the evolving universes, and they are really material. Even the planetary Adams and Eves are plainly visible to the mortal races of the inhabited worlds. These material sons are the last and physical link in the chain of personalities extending from divinity and perfection above down to humanity and material existence below. These sons provide the inhabited worlds with a mutually contactable intermediary between the invisible planetary prince and the material creatures of the realms. At the last millennial registration on Selfington, there were of record in Nebadon 161,432,840 material sons and daughters of citizenship status on the local system capitals. The number of material sons varies in the different systems, and their number is being constantly increased by natural reproduction. In the exercise of their reproductive functions, they are not guided wholly by the personal desires of the contacting personalities, but also by the higher governing bodies and advisory councils. These material sons and daughters are the permanent inhabitants of Jerusem and its associated worlds. They occupy vast estates on Jerusem and participate liberally in the local management of the capital sphere, administering practically all routine affairs with the assistance of the midwayers and the ascenders. On Jerusem, these reproducing sons are permitted to experiment with the ideals of self-government after the manner of the Melchizedeks, and they are achieving a very high type of society. The higher orders of sonship reserve the veto functions of the realms, but in nearly every respect the Jerusem Adamites govern themselves by universal suffrage and representative government. Sometime they hope to be granted virtually complete autonomy. The character of the service of the material sons is largely determined by their ages, while they are not eligible for admission to the Melchizedek University of Salvington, being material and ordinarily limited to certain planets. Nevertheless, the Melchizedeks maintain strong faculties of teachers on the headquarters of each system for the instruction of the younger generations of the material sons. The educational and spiritual training systems provided for the development of the younger material sons and daughters are the acme of perfection in scope, technique, and practicability. Then we go to point 6, Adamic training of ascenders. The material sons and daughters, together with their children, present an engaging spectacle which never fails to arouse the curiosity and intrigue the attention of all ascending mortals. They are so similar to your own material sex races that you both find much of common interest to engage your thoughts and occupy your seasons of fraternal contact. Mortal survivors spend much of their leisure on the system capital observing and studying the life habits and conduct of these superior semi-physical sex creatures, for these citizens of Jerusem are the immediate sponsors and mentors of the mortal survivors from the time they attain citizenship on the headquarters world until they take leave for Urantia. On the seven-mentioned worlds, ascending mortals are afforded ample opportunities for compensating any and all experiential deprivations suffered on their worlds of origin, whether due to inheritance, environment, or unfortunate premature termination of the career in the flesh. This is in every sense true except in the mortal sex life and its attendant adjustments. Thousands of mortals reach the mentioned worlds without having benefited particularly from the disciplines derived from very average sex relations on their native spheres. The mentioned world experience can provide little opportunity for compensating these very personal deprivations. Sex experience in a physical sense is past for these ascenders. So this means that the sex experience that we are having here on Urantia/Earth will pass, but in close association with the material sons and daughters, both individually and as members of their families, these sex-divisioned mortals are enabled to compensate the social, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual aspects of their deficiency. Thus are all those humans whom circumstances are bad, judgment, deprived of the benefits of advantageous sex association on the evolutionary worlds, here on the system, capitals afforded full opportunity to acquire these essential mortal experiences in close and loving association with the supernal Adamic sex creatures of permanent residence on the system capitals. No surviving mortal midwayer or seraphim may ascend to paradise, attain the Father, and be mustered into the corpse of the finality without having passed through that sublime experience of achieving parental relationship to an evolving child of the worlds or some other experience analogous and equivalent thereto. This means in actuality those of us who were not able to give birth to a family, to give birth to children and so on, who were never able to experience sexuality in a way as it should be experienced, you will have a chance to eventually experience this in the Adamic training centers. So there you can eventually experience what it is, to raise a family, to raise children and so on. So no worries for all those brothers and sisters who were not able or who are not able in this life and who have not been able in this life. And then I speak for those brothers and sisters who have passed away. If you have never been able to experience what it is to raise children and to have a family life, you will have this opportunity still. No wait a minute. The relationship of child and parent is fundamental to the essential concept of the universal Father. So this also means if you have experienced, and unfortunately a lot of us have experienced, a very distorted, perverse idea of the concept of relationship between child and parent. Most of us have experienced a very aggressive unnatural parent-child relationship, and this parent-child relationship was most of the time disturbed, perverted, twisted, distorted due to the background of the parents, the suffering the parents. If we go to things like child abuse in families, narcissism in families, and children who get born with ADHD and autism and so on, they all experience a twisted and distorted idea of child-parent relationship. But we have a chance, and that is nice to know, that we can still experience what it is to be in a loving parent-child relationship. And again, for those who were never able to upbring children themselves, you will have the opportunity still to do so in the Adamic worlds, in the Adamic training worlds. Therefore, does such an experience become indispensable to the experiential training of all ascenders. The ascending midway creatures and the evolutionary seraphim must pass the ascending midway creatures So the ascending midway creatures and the evolutionary seraphim must pass through this parenthood experience in association with the material sons and daughters of the system headquarters. Thus do such non-reproducing ascenders. So actually we have to go through this stage. So those of us who have never been reproducing life, we must go through this experience, and otherwise you will not get the good understanding of the concept of the father, of the child-parent relation which we have with God the Father. The God the Father is our parent, we are his children, and we need to build up a relationship with him. Obtain the experience of parenthood by assisting the Jerusem, Adams and Eves, in rearing and training their progeny. So we become part of a material son and daughter family setting, to learn what it is to raise a child and to have family life and so on, and to learn what a good child-parent relationship is, and so on. All mortal survivors who have not experienced parenthood on the evolutionary worlds must also obtain this necessary training while sojourning in the homes of the Jerusem material sons and as parental associates of these suburb fathers and mothers. So you can see that becoming parents in this world, it is a training. Everything we do in this world is part of a training. You can say that the life we live here on earth / Urantia is actually a training. Our first training of many uncountable trainings we will go through until we, after 1 billion years, reach the final destination, which is the central universe, and thus the Paradise Father himself. This is true except insofar as much mortals have been able to compensate their deficiencies on the system nursery located on the first transitional culture world of Jerusem. So there's also a system nursery where you can go to, and if you go through that successfully, then actually you do not have to go through this necessary training of the material son and daughter family life, so to speak. This probation nursery of Satania is maintained by certain Morontia personalities on the finalizer's world, one half of the planet being devoted to this work of child rearing. Here are received and reassembled certain children of surviving mortals such as those offspring who perished on the evolutionary worlds before acquiring spiritual status as individuals. Well, this is beautiful to know, that those who lost their children on early age, that they are actually the inhabitants of the nursery world. The ascension of either of its natural parents ensures that such a mortal child of the realms will be accorded repersonalization on the system finaliter planet and there be permitted to demonstrate by subsequent free will choice whether or not it elects to follow the parental path of mortal ascension. Children here appear as on the nativity world, except for the absence of sex differentiation. There is no reproduction of mortal kind after the life experience on the inhabited world. So this is the one and only lifetime that you will be able to do reproduction. Mention world students who have one or more children in the probationary nursery on the finaliter's world and who are deficient in essential parental experience may apply for a Melchizedek permit, which will affect their temporary transfer from ascension duties on the mention worlds to the finaliter world, where they are granted opportunity to function as associate parents to their own and other children. This service of parental ministry may be later accredited on Jerusem as the fulfillment of one half of the training which such ascenders are required to undergo in the families of the material sons and daughters. The probation nursery itself is supervised by 1,000 couples of material sons and daughters, volunteers from the Jerusem colony of their order. They are immediately assisted by about an equal number of volunteer Midsonite parental groups who stop off here to render this service on their way from the Midsonite world of Satania to the unrevealed destiny on their special worlds of reservation among the finaliter spheres of Selfington. And then we have as last the Melchizedek schools. The Melchizedeks are the directors of that large corps of instructors, partially spiritualized, will creatures and others who function so acceptably on Jerusem and its associated worlds, but especially on the 7 mentioned worlds. These are the detention planets, where those mortals, so there are detention planets where those mortals who fail to achieve fusion with their indwelling adjusters during the life in the flesh are rehabilitated in transient form to receive further help and to enjoy extended opportunity for continuing their strivings for spiritual attainment, those very efforts which were prematurely interrupted by death. or if, for any other reason of hereditary handicap, unfavorable environment, or conspiracy of circumstances, this soul attainment was not completed, no matter what the reason. All who are true of purpose and worthy in spirit find themselves as themselves present on the continuing planets, where they must learn to master the essentials of the eternal career, to possess themselves of traits which they could not or did not acquire during the lifetime in the flesh. The brilliant evening stars and their unnamed coordinates frequently serve as teachers in the various educational enterprises of the universe, including those sponsored by the Melchizedeks. Also do the Trinity teachers sons collaborate, and they impart the touches of the paradise perfection to these progressive training schools. But all these activities are not exclusively devoted to the advancement of ascending mortals. Many are equally occupied with the progressive training of the native spirit personalities of Nebadon. The Melchizedek sons conduct upward of 30 different educational centers on Jerusem. These training schools begin with the College of Self-Evaluation and end with the schools of Jerusem citizenship, wherein the material sons and daughters join with the Melchizedeks and others in their supreme effort to qualify the mortal survivors for the assumption of the high responsibilities of representative government. The entire universe is organized and administered on the representative plan. Representative government is the divine ideal of self-government among non-perfect beings. Every 100 years of universe time, each system selects its 10 representatives to sit in the constellation legislature. They are chosen by the Jerusem Council of 1,000, an elective body charged with the duty of representing the system groups in all such delegated or appointive matters. All representatives or other delegates are selected by the Council of 1,000 electors, and they must be graduates of the highest school of the Melchizedek College of Administration, as also are all of those who constitute this group of 1,000 electors. This school is fostered by the Melchizedeks, latterly assisted by the finalizers. There are many elective bodies on Jerusem, and they are voted into authority from time to time by 3 orders of citizenship: the material sons and daughters, the seraphim and their associates, including midway creatures and the ascending mortals, to receive nomination for representative honor, and candidate must have gained a requisite recognition from the Melchizedek schools of administration. Suffrage is universal on Jerusem among these 3 groups of citizenship. but the vote is differently cast in accordance with the recognized and duly registered personal possession of mota, morontia, wisdom. The vote cast at a Jerusem election by any one personality has a value ranging from 1 up to 1,000. Jerusem citizens are thus classified in accordance with their mota achievement. From time to time, Jerusem citizens present themselves to the Melchizedek examiners, who certify to their attainment of morontia, wisdom. Then they go before the examining corps of the brilliant evening stars, or their designates, who ascertain the degree of spirit insight. Next, they appear in the presence of the 24 counselors and their associates, who pass upon their status of experiential attainment of socialization. These three factors are then carried to the citizenship registrars of representative government, who quickly compute the mota status and assign suffrage qualifications in accordance therewith. Under the supervision of the Melchizedeks, the ascending mortals, especially those who are tardy in their personality unification on the new morontia levels, are taken in hand by the material sons and are given intensive training designed to rectify such deficiencies. No ascending mortal leaves the system headquarters for the more extensive and varied socialization career. Wow. Of the constellation until these material sons certify the achievement of mota personality. An individuality combining the completed mortal existence in experiential association with the budding morontia career, both being dully blended by the spiritual over-control of the thought adjuster. And with this said, we have come to the end of this paper 45 that has been presented to us by a Melchizedek of temporary assignment on Urantia. So he has been the one that has presented us all this information. This interesting paper, interesting to know or what we can expect if we go further after this life in flesh. All right, thank you so much for listening to this audio video recording, and I wish you all a beautiful, joyful, loving day, and God bless you.